Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome to The Last Lap. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down everything we saw from the Chicago street course. But before we hop into the video, just want to quickly remind you guys, hit that like button and subscribe button. And you can also check out our social media pages, so this will be linked down below. But let's go ahead and hop into the video. Matthew, my friend and co-host, is joining me as always. And funny video before we hop into things. So we attempted to record this at my house in studio together, but we recorded it and then I went to edit it and I found out my microphone wasn't plugged in, so there was no audio. So now we're resorting back to the quote-unquote normal way of doing things, unfortunately. So Matthew, sorry that I choked, I messed up, but again, now we get to do it all over again. Now we get to see, I listened to Denny's Hamlin's podcast, so now I know a little bit more about what happened over the weekend. So it's all good, it's fine, just a little delay, but this is going to be a better episode than the first one. But Matthew, how's it feel to be back on the show and talk about everything we saw from Chicago?
Well, I apologize to all our viewers in advance because of this dude right here not uploading on time because this dude forgot to plug in the microphone. Like, come on, man. But, yeah, at least we got to see the ratings and all that. Even with technical difficulties, we're able to see the ratings and all impact and all that. So this will help our video a little bit more than the previous attempt. So let's get it.
Yeah, we just had a little more time to look at a few more notes, a few extra things that came out on social media. It's fine. This is going to be a perfect episode, but way better than the first one. Although it was nice to be able to attempt to record next to each other, but we'll do that again someday in the future later on. Let's go ahead and hop into it. I'll quickly go over the race recap. But going into this race, everybody in NASCAR, the city of Chicago, they were promoting this to be an event, so I was expecting to be entertained. And entertainment at a NASCAR race usually involves crashes, big wrecks, pit strategy calls, this, that, the other thing. So I was here for all the chaos. I wanted everything chaotic to happen because this was supposed to be an event. And it started just like that, chaotic. Rain was in the area. The Xfinity race got, they almost got to halfway, and then they postponed it, and then they ended up calling the race early, all that stuff. That went all the way into Sunday. They finally got the race started in the rain, on rain tires. Quickly want to give props to the track crew because, apparently, so I was listening to Denny Hamlin's podcast, and apparently, when they were doing interviews in the media center and all that, it was there was no way they were racing. And then when they said drivers to your cars in 15 minutes, he walked out of the media center and all the puddles were gone. There was this much water on pit road. There were tires floating down pit road and everything. And then by the time they got to their cars, that was all gone. So props to the whole track team for getting the track pretty much ready for a race. Turn 6 seemed to be the trouble spot all day. Started with Matthew's driver, Kyle Busch. He slid into the tire barrier. That brought out the first caution of the day. And Noah Gragson, he hit that wall 3 or 4 times. Him and Turn 6, they were just not friends. He just slid into the wall. I think he got stuck twice, and that brought out a caution 2 times. But Turn 6 was definitely a trouble spot, a very heavy braking zone, especially with the wet. It was easy to lose traction and just slide straight into the tire barriers. Shout out to the next-gen car, though, because if that was the previous car, Kyle Busch and Noah Gragson, they might not have been able to finish this race because, yeah, the next-gen car is just very tough and is able to keep going. So huge shout out to that. There was a caution, and I don't even know how far into the race. It was in stage 3, I'm pretty sure at this point. But Christopher Bell and Martin Truex, they seemed to be the class of the field. Shane Van Gisbergen and Kyle Larson, they were right around in the top 5 as well. They seemed like they could contend. And after that caution cycle, NASCAR decided to shorten the race to 75 laps instead of 100 due to darkness coming. And it was kind of bad timing because some teams decided to pit right before that, and then they could stay out the rest of the race and maintain track position. Meanwhile, drivers like Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Shane Van Gisbergen, they all stayed out, and then they pitted later, and they were sent to the back of the field. So I feel like NASCAR probably could have done that a little bit better. Denny Hamlin, once again, I was listening to his podcast. He said that it would have been, from what it sounded like, he almost sounded like it would have been better if they did what they did at New Hampshire a few years ago, when they were just like, hey, we got 10 laps to finish this, let's go ahead and just do it that way. Because I guess that means, nobody knows when the race is going to end, so they can strategize differently and stuff like that. Or he said that he would have preferred if they did it like in stage one and been like, hey, it's going to be a 75 lap race, because when you do it inside that final fuel window, that gives teams the chance to kind of mess around and gain track position, lose track position, stuff like that. But yeah, that ended up happening. They shortened the race 25 laps. Justin Haley, Austin Dillon, and Chase Elliott, they were the top three after all of that shuffling around due to pitting and track position. And the pile up finally happened. It had to happen at least one time. It happened in turn 11. So it started with William Byron. He kind of went off track and barely hit the wall, but that stacked up everybody behind them. Corey LaJoie and Kevin Harvick got together. They both spun out, and then there's the parking lot right in between turns 11 and 12. Just a giant stack up, 10, 12, 13, 14 cars. It wasn't like a wreck. They were just all stopped, and then there was a giant line behind all of them. So it had to happen once. It was kind of funny that it happened. Thankfully, it wasn't a bunch of cars being destroyed. It was just kind of a big pile up, a big parking lot on the racetrack. But the Toyotas, they sold this race so hard. They choked, they blew it, like all the things. Like they sold so hard. I know the track position and darkness thing kind of screwed them over. I know the track position and all of that kind of screwed them over, but Shane Van Gisbergen, the eventual winner of the race, was part of that strategy, and he was able to make his way through the field and win. So, the Toyotas just made a lot of mistakes. Tricks. He went around by himself. Christopher Bell spun out by himself. Tyler Reddick went into the tire barrier in turn 6 and brought out a late caution. So the Toyotas, those three specifically, seemed like the best of the Toyotas, and they just could not work their way through the field. But Justin Haley, Austin Dillon, and Chase Elliott maintained those top three positions for a while. And then Austin Dillon, he made a mistake. He got into the wall off of turn 12. That would end his day. But SVG, he was just making his way through the field slowly but surely, and he was about to pass Justin Haley for the lead, and then a caution came out, which set up a late race restart. SVG was able to take the lead from Justin Haley on that restart, but a caution came out with 2 to go, which set up overtime, but that didn't matter. SVG was able to get a good restart, pull away, and take the win, and history was made. It was the first time in 60 years that a driver has won a cup race in their debut in their first start. And just a little bit of background on SVG. He has 80 plus wins in the V8 Supercar Series in Australia and 3 championships, including he is the back-to-back champion over there in Australia. And for those cars, they do race a lot of street circuits, and they're on the opposite side of the car. So he's on the right side of the car, shifting with his left hand, where in NASCAR you drive on the left side of the car, shift with your right hand, which makes it a whole lot more impressive that he was just able to come over here, adapt like that, and get the win that way. I kind of expected him to be like Kimi Räikkönen and Jordan Taylor when they did their debut. They had good speed, but they weren't able to stay at the front. They got caught up in a lot of chaos, a lot of bumping and banging, sent them back. But I do think single file restarts helped him out, and having the restart zone in between turns 11 and 12, so it isn't a really long straightaway. It gives them a tiny corner to get going, so not everybody is bunched together. So I do think that helped him from avoiding all kinds of chaos that we see at like the Indy Road Course and Coda and stuff like that. And by the way, I do think that should be some type of thing that NASCAR does moving forward is change the restart zone area so they don't have everybody sending it down into turn one, 5, 6, 7 wide, not having a care for each other. So, maybe for Indy Road Course, they could implement that. That would be great, but probably not. But one final thing I want to talk about is like, how does this feel like to the NASCAR fans and to the NASCAR drivers to have somebody come in, like just a guy coming in one race and just win? Is it, in Denny Hamlin's words, he was like, is it good for the sport? Is it better for the sport, or does it make the Cup drivers look bad? Because SVG literally said he could go call 10 of his friends and they could all come over and probably do the same thing he just did. So, I think it's more good for the sport. I don't really think it makes the Cup drivers look bad because it's not like SVG ran away with the whole thing. He was contending with most of them throughout the day. He was just a little bit better than them. He didn't go win the race by 30 seconds. So, yeah, I think it was good for the sport that he could come in and do this. We have the guy from 2311 doing the same thing at Indy Road Course in a few weeks. So I do think it's good for international drivers to just come in and get a race like this and make good of it. And it provides a lot of TV time for that driver, and people from that country are watching that driver. So you're getting support from Australia and the United States and Chicago, which is a big market as well. So that probably all has to do with the whole ratings and the views and all that, which we'll go into in a little bit later. But anyways, I'll quickly throw the top 10 results on the screen for you guys. They're up there. Nothing too crazy stands out, but Justin Haley, do quickly want to give a shout out to him. He drove a great race, great strategy. Was able to hold off SVG, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch for most of that final stage. So shout out to him. But top 10 is right there. I've talked enough for a while. I'm going to go ahead and let Matthew share a few thoughts about what he saw from Chicago, and then we'll get into a few more questions before we go ahead and finish this video up. So, Matthew, go ahead and share with the people your thoughts on what you saw from the Chicago street course.
All right, so first and foremost, I want to talk about SVG because I don't want to mispronounce his name or anything. I'm going to just use SVG, but huge congratulations to him, to Project 91, and to Trackhouse. I was talking to a couple of other people. I don't know if I said this to you, but before this weekend, I said, "Man, this SVG might actually be a contender to win this race this week because of the unpredictability." And well, I predicted it, but man, it is just surreal to see someone that just hops into a cup car, not only was fast in practice, not only qualified in the top five, but ended up winning the race. We've never seen anything like that ever in the 60 years. And of course, this is the 75th anniversary, first time on street course, which makes it even more special. So I really hope to see this guy come back more often. Maybe see him at Watkins Glen or Indy Road Course, Charlotte Roval. But it'll be nice to see him come back for more part-time starts, I guess. But man, this dude's the GOAT. He's officially undefeated in NASCAR right now. He's undefeated. But all jokes aside, huge congratulations to him. This is why Trackhouse has become one of my favorite teams right now because of Justin Marks single-handedly helping NASCAR reach out to an international audience. I mean, with him winning, I mean, he had the whole country of Australia, New Zealand, basically watching him win the Cup race, which was amazing to see. It's funny. This is the first time in a while I think I don't mind seeing a Red Bull driver winning. Um, because in the VA Supercars, he is a Red Bull driver. That's why he wore the Red Bull helmet in his Cup race. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, huge congratulations. Now, I want to talk about this whole event as a whole. Even though the weather was terrible, I mean, that's out of NASCAR's control. I'm not going to hold them to that. This race was still a success. Now, I mean, there was still so many people that showed up to the Cup race, even after it was delayed, after the monsoon happened. Like, man, just imagine what the day, if it was like a clear sunny day, what the atmosphere would have been like. I'm sure we just saw even more people, but there were still so many people there, which was amazing to see. I mean, there was a lot of energy in that crowd, especially after the Victory Lane celebration with I mean, they were playing some DJ Khaled, and you can hear the whole crowd basically getting into it, which was. I wish we could see that more often in NASCAR races, but unfortunately, most of the races are in the middle of nowhere, so I don't think we'll ever get that type of atmosphere for a while. But well, it was just such an amazing event, and to all those people that were literally whining, crying, making a bunch of pathetic excuses about why this race was going to be a failure, why would this race will be a disaster, an absolute, um, you know, you know what show. I hate to bring it to you, but you're wrong. You were dead wrong about that. And if you still think that, then there's something wrong with you. Let's just be clear here, be perfectly blunt here. This race proved everyone wrong that NASCAR can run on the streets. Not just Chicago, but anywhere else. Doesn't matter if we take this to New York City one day. Doesn't matter if we take this to Philadelphia one day, Denver, Boston, any type of big city that NASCAR has never been to before. NASCAR should take a good advantage of it. And while I understand we can't have a bunch of street courses, not only because it's expensive, we don't want to get a little carried away here, but can we talk about these ratings now? This was the highest. I mean, the most amount of viewers to a NASCAR race on TV on NBC since 6 years ago, which was absolutely insane to see. And man, I mean, it just shows when you go to a big city means more TVs, which means more eyes watching. Compare that to North Wilkesboro this year, where a lot of people say, "Oh, this is the best thing that ever happened in NASCAR. Everyone's gonna be watching." When in reality, it couldn't even beat the worst track on the schedule. It couldn't even beat those ratings from last year. Like, come on. I mean, I understand it was still a sold out crowd and everything, but come on, you couldn't even beat Texas Motor Speedway ratings? And that's the reason why. Because when you go to these big markets, that means you'll have more TVs on. Compare Chicago to Wilkesboro County. It's not even close. So, I mean, I know we don't want to overflow the schedule of street courses, but I feel like the more that we do these, the higher the ratings are going to be overall. And in my opinion, I think we should have two, just two, no more than that, just two. It could be Chicago, and it could be New York City. It could be somewhere in Canada and Mexico. It could be somewhere in Europe, or it could be somewhere in San Diego. Who knows? But yeah, that's my opinion. If you don't like that, oh well. But yeah, what an amazing weekend it was. What an amazing winner that I never expected to happen, even though I was joking that he could win. But man, what a weekend! And I, hopefully we can come back next year because I want to see how this race plays out with all the whole weekend being sunny. So hopefully next year, if they do come back, please, sunny weather, please.
Yeah, so Keith, you kind of already started the conversation, but I'm gonna give my 2 cents on street courses in NASCAR in general. I do think a street course does belong on the schedule. I think Chicago deserves another opportunity because of everything that happened with the weather and the Xfinity race being postponed and then ended up being cut short and all that kind of stuff, and the Cup race being delayed, the Cup race being cut short, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the fans. I looked on Twitter at Jeff Gluck and Eric Estep, and fans were pouring into the street course after stage one, even after it started getting sunny and the rain started going away. So huge shout out to all the fans that went out there and supported the race. And I don't know where they get this stat from, but apparently like 80% of the people there it was their first NASCAR race. So love that. Love introducing the
I
sport to
mean,
new people.
80%. I mean, 80%. You're not getting that at Atlanta Motor Speedway. You are not getting that at Texas Motor Speedway or even Charlotte Roval. You are not getting those type of stats, and that's very important. That NASCAR needs these type of percentages here because it's all about the younger audience now. So seeing that number is absolutely a big win for NASCAR, and it'll be nice over time. We can see that number grow more, but I don't think that's gonna happen unless we keep going to like LA, Chicago, and other street races, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I also want to give my 2 cents on this whole, ratings thing and TV rating and viewers and all this kind of stuff. So I think NASCAR needs to tread carefully with these numbers because, um, like we saw, the Chicago race is the best one on NBC since the Homestead 2017 championship race, which is great. I love that. But at the same time, you had the All Star race, which didn't have that many views and all that stuff. Da da da. It was worse than Texas and all that kind of stuff. But as a fan, I would much rather see NASCAR go to North Wilkesboro and have less ratings and da 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 compared to going to Texas and the racing being garbage and all that stuff. Because Matthew, I know you love Texas Motor Speedway, right? Like you would love to have NASCAR go there over in North Wilkesboro next year, right?
Hey, I never said Texas was better than North Wilkesboro. Don't get me wrong on that. Don't get it twisted. I never said that.
Yeah, I know. It's just like that.
But being a small county, well, it's not always going to produce the ratings. Which I mean, when we're talking about this new TV deal coming up here, that's doesn't really help the case. If you keep going, these places are not really that heavily populated. So I mean, I'm not saying the racing was, even though North Wilkesboro racing, oof, this year wasn't that good. But yeah.
That's the only like caveat that I see like getting in the way of this whole, oh, we should look at the ratings every week because if you go to like a historic track and all of that stuff, that's going to bring out the true NASCAR fans and we need to do stuff for them, but we also need to have going to Chicago, going to all these street courses. So it needs to be a balance. There needs to be a little bit of give and take. We need to have a little bit of sacrifice of some TV ratings here to go to North Wilkesboro, to go to Rockingham, to go to Nashville Fairgrounds, to go to these type of racetracks. But we also, it's a balance when you go to all these places that introduce the sport to new fans too. So just that's just my 2 cents on that. But as far as street races on the schedule, I think there should just be one for right now every year, and then so NASCAR and Chicago have a 3-year deal, and the city can notify NASCAR within 180 days or something if they're not gonna do it. So I think up until that, I think it's just one a year, and then after that we should reevaluate because NASCAR's pouring so much money into this that like it's a lot. I don't know the specific number, but I was listening to Denny Hamlin once again, and like just the comparison between that and going to a track that SMI or NASCAR owns, it's way cheaper for them to do that. So I think one per year would be good financially, and like do one street course and then, I don't know, 4 of the road courses throughout the season. Maybe 2 in the future, but, for now, for the near future, just do 1 for right now. But let's go ahead and rate this race before we finish on up. For me, I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that doesn't give it a 10 out of 10, but I think I have to give it like a 9 out of 10 just because of the rain and all of that. The fans were great. I did hear a lot of things about, security not being polite with fans and pushing them out, and city guidelines conflicting with all this other crazy stuff and all that. But that's the only reason I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Everything on the track was great. The mixture of the rain tires, the dry tires, the drama, the pit strategy, on track racing, all that stuff was pretty darn good. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Matthew, what are you going to rate this race?
I'll give it a 9 out of 10 as well. What an amazing race it was. Pretty much the best road course race of the year so far. And I don't know if the other ones will even top this. So this might be the best street course race of the season. Um, and amazing atmosphere. Glad to see all the fans showed up even after the weather. So 9 out of 10.
Alright, and our fantasy points will be up on the screen for you guys as well. I'm basically 300 points behind Matthew. It's a lost cause at this rate, but it's my obligation to show you guys how bad Matthew's beating me, and I'm sure he's loving every minute of it, every video, seeing his points lead grow more and more throughout the season, but we'll just see. I'm just hoping and praying at this point that something goes right, but anyways, that's pretty much going to wrap it up. Matthew, do you have any other closing thoughts, or we go ahead and finish this video up?
Well, we're going from a street course to a smaller super speedway. This should be an interesting weekend coming up.
Yes, very much so. Atlanta is this weekend. Very excited for that. We'll keep you guys posted about that. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said in the beginning, thank you guys for your support. Just make sure you guys like the video and subscribe. You can check out our social media pages. We're always active on those. But until the next time, we'll see you guys in our next video.